He just needs to be the one who asks for divorce first.
She thought she was breaking me. She built me instead.
I never imagined that 11 years of marriage would completely disintegrate because of 5 carefully chosen sentences. But that's exactly what happened to me. My wife Sarah didn't destroy our relationship with screaming arguments or dramatic exits. Instead, she systematically dismantled everything we'd built together with words that sounded casual but sliced through our life like surgical blades. Looking back now with painful clarity, I understand she wasn't having random moments of doubt. She was deliberately testing boundaries, measuring my reactions, calculating exactly how much damage she could inflict before I finally pushed back. What she completely failed to anticipate was that I wouldn't push back in the way she expected. Instead of breaking down emotionally, I would start meticulously documenting everything with cold precision. It all began on what seemed like an ordinary Monday morning while I was preparing breakfast in our kitchen. Sarah walked in already fully dressed for her morning workout, her eyes completely glued to her phone screen like it contained the answers to life's greatest mysteries. Without even bothering to glance in my direction, she casually remarked, "You know what I've been thinking about lately? We probably just settled for each other when we got married." She delivered this devastating observation with the same casual tone you'd use to comment about needing groceries. I nearly dropped the spatula I was holding. The coffee I'd been pouring overflowed slightly onto the counter, but I was too stunned to notice immediately. When I asked her what she meant by that statement, she simply shrugged without looking away from her phone and told me to forget she'd said anything. But I absolutely couldn't forget it. Those words played on endless repeat in my mind throughout the entire day. 11 years of building a life together, supporting each other through career changes and family losses, planning our future, and suddenly I'm just someone she settled for. I tried desperately to convince myself it was merely a thoughtless comment made before coffee, just words thrown out without real meaning. But somewhere deep in my gut, I knew better. Something fundamental had shifted between us. Tuesday evening completely erased any remaining doubt that her Monday comment had been accidental. We'd ordered Thai food from the restaurant we used to visit during our early dating years, though calling what we had a relationship felt increasingly inaccurate. Sarah sat across from me, picking at her pad thai in uncomfortable silence, her mind clearly elsewhere. Then she looked directly at me and said deliberately, "Sometimes I find myself wondering how completely different my life would have turned out if I'd made other choices back then." The emphasis she placed on choices wasn't subtle. It was calculated, sharp, intended to wound. When I asked her to clarify what specific choices she meant, she gave me this cold smile that didn't reach her eyes and listed several things. Her career path, where we chose to live, her relationships. The way she said relationships was drawn out, carefully enunciated, meant to hurt. I kept my voice remarkably steady and calmly told her it's never too late to make different choices if she felt that strongly. Her smile vanished immediately. Good. I wanted her to feel the weight of her own words hanging in the air. Wednesday afternoon, I suggested we should visit my parents that weekend, since we hadn't seen them in months, and they'd been asking about us. My parents had always been incredibly kind to Sarah, welcoming her completely, treating her like the daughter they'd never had. Without even a moment's hesitation, Sarah responded flatly, "I honestly can't keep pretending to enjoy things I stopped caring about a long time ago." Her tone was completely flat, final, dismissive. The statement wasn't about my parents specifically. It was about everything we'd created together, our entire shared history, the life we'd supposedly been building. I asked her very calmly, keeping my emotions controlled, exactly how long she'd been pretending. She looked momentarily startled, then became defensive, then dismissive, finally telling me I was reading too much into a simple comment. But I wasn't reading too much into anything. For the first time in months, possibly years, I was finally reading the situation exactly right and seeing the truth clearly. Thursday evening brought what was perhaps the cruelest statement yet. We were standing side by side at the bathroom sink brushing our teeth, existing in that strained silence that had become our normal. She caught my eye in the mirror's reflection and asked pointedly, "Do you ever look at other couples who seem genuinely happy and wonder what that must actually feel like?" Notice very carefully that she didn't say we or us in that question. She had completely excluded me from any possibility of happiness. I finished rinsing my mouth, maintained eye contact through the mirror, and told her that yes, I'd been wondering exactly the same thing. Her face twitched with surprise, as if I'd violated some invisible rule. She clearly expected resistance, perhaps begging. Instead, I gave her agreement, and it rattled her. She went to bed without another word. That Thursday night, I stayed awake late in the living room, sitting in darkness, thinking deeply and replaying the week's events in my mind. 4 carefully crafted phrases over 4 days, 4 precisely aimed knives thrown without visible drama, calculated to sound like honest observations but sharpened to inflict maximum damage. And sitting there in the quiet, I finally realized something crucial. Sarah wasn't trying to fix our marriage. She was attempting to frame me, slowly dismantling our relationship so that when everything fell apart, she could claim I was the one who gave up first. She wanted to position herself as the devoted wife who tried everything, who stayed until she couldn't anymore, who would emerge as the sympathetic figure. Friday morning delivered the final statement. We were sitting at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, sunlight streaming through the windows, creating an illusion of peace. Then Sarah looked at me and stated matter-of-factly, "I think we both understand this isn't working between us anymore." No sadness, no apology, no emotion. Just a flat closing statement like a manager terminating an employee. I didn't flinch. I set down my mug, met her eyes, and smiled. Not from bitterness, but from sudden clarity. "You're absolutely right," I said calmly. "It isn't working." Then I stood up, leaned down, kissed the top of her head as if nothing had changed, thanked her for making everything clear, and walked away. She called after me, confused, probably expecting me to fight, to beg, to scream, but I didn't because I'd finally seen the entire game she was playing, and I wasn't going to play defense anymore. This wasn't heartbreak in the traditional sense. This was revelation. Those 5 phrases hadn't just exposed her intentions. They'd handed me her complete strategy like blueprints. Sarah thought she was in absolute control, directing our marriage's slow dissolution according to her script. But she'd made one critical error. She had dramatically underestimated me. The week following those 5 phrases, I started observing Sarah the way a detective studies a suspect, not emotionally invested, but analytically detached, watching patterns with sharp attention. I wasn't looking for fights. I was looking for patterns. And it didn't take long to find them. It started with her phone, that device that had become an extension of her body. She used to leave it casually on the counter, frequently unlocked, treating it like no big deal. Sometimes she'd hand it to me to check directions or read a text while she drove. But suddenly it was always face down, always password protected, always kept close like a lifeline. If it buzzed, she'd reach for it before the sound registered. And if I glanced at the screen, her entire demeanor shifted into something guarded, protective, paranoid, like I'd witnessed something forbidden. Tuesday evening, we were eating dinner in the living room. Nothing fancy, just steak and vegetables. Her phone buzzed on the table. She practically launched across the couch to grab it, then tried playing it casual. "Work stuff," she muttered, without looking up, fingers flying across the keyboard. I sliced into my steak and remarked it was 8:15 at night. "You know how demanding my job can be," she replied quickly. The thing is, I knew exactly how her job worked. Her company had a strict no-contact policy after 6 p.m. for work-life balance. It was a benefit she'd always praised. I didn't press her on the obvious lie. I simply stored that contradiction away. Wednesday morning, I got confirmation of my suspicions. Sarah was in the bathroom curling her hair when her phone rang on the nightstand. Unknown number. I merely glanced at it. She stepped out quickly, saw the missed call, and her face went pale for half a second before she recovered. "Probably spam," she muttered unconvincingly, snatching the phone and disappearing back into the bathroom. A minute later, I heard muffled audio, a voicemail playing, deliberately obscured by running water. When she emerged, I was sitting on the bed, fully dressed, sipping coffee, smiling. "Everything all right?" I asked innocently. "Fine," she snapped, then softened. "Sorry, just stressed about the presentation I have today." I tilted my head. "What presentation?" I asked. She froze. There wasn't one. We both knew that, but I let it go. "Well, hope it goes well," I said. The relief flooding her face would have been comical if it wasn't so pathetic. By Thursday, her behavior wasn't subtle anymore. Calls always taken in other rooms. Random mood swings between distant and artificially cheerful. Constantly checking her phone, even at midnight, the screen glowing under the covers like a flashlight. It was obvious. Texts, calls, secrets. She was somewhere else, emotionally and mentally, and someone else was there with her. That Thursday night, I decided to test her. She was curled on the couch, typing furiously, smiling faintly at her screen. I walked over and sat next to her, closer than comfortable. Her shoulders tensed immediately, and she angled the phone away. "Don't let me interrupt," I said, settling in. "You seemed really focused." She claimed it was nothing important, but her hands trembled. I mentioned she'd been staring at it for 20 minutes. She said she was catching up with a college friend. Anyone I know? I asked. Long pause. I don't think so. That's nice, I replied, grabbing the remote. Always good to reconnect. Her eyes stayed on me longer than usual, wary, like she knew the balance had shifted but couldn't figure out how or why. Friday morning brought the conversation I'd expected. Over breakfast, Sarah suddenly said, "We should probably talk seriously." I didn't look up. About what? About us. About where this marriage is going? Where is what going? I asked, looking at her. Our marriage, she said, exasperated. We've been having problems. Have we? I asked calmly. I haven't noticed. That derailed her script completely. She blinked like short-circuiting. We barely talk anymore, she insisted. We're talking now, I pointed out. That's not what I mean, and you know it. No, I don't. Why don't you explain? Her frustration was visible. The conversation wasn't following her rehearsed script. She was trying to provoke emotion. I was giving her a wall. She tried to pivoting. It feels like we're not connected anymore. Emotionally? I asked. Yeah. I nodded slowly. And whose fault do you think that is? Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. She didn't have an answer because deep down she knew. She knew I was watching. She knew I'd changed, and she had no idea how much I knew or what I was planning. That weekend, while Sarah was out with friends, I opened a document on my laptop titled Observations and Evidence. Not for journaling feelings, but because I'd crossed a line mentally. I was no longer a husband trying to fix a marriage. I was a man studying his opponent. Every interaction became a data point. Her tone, timing, sudden interest in locking drawers, the way she smiled at her phone like it whispered secrets I wasn't meant to hear. I logged everything with timestamps and neutral language, like preparing for trial. I didn't rely on instinct alone. I called her sister Lisa to catch up, something we hadn't done recently. Within minutes, Lisa mentioned something that twisted my stomach. Sarah's been asking weird hypothetical questions lately, she said hesitantly. About divorce, about whether someone could get ahead before things got messy. She tried laughing it off, but I didn't. I pressed gently. Like what kind of things? I don't know exactly, Lisa said uncomfortably. Like whether filing first makes you look better in court, or if judges care more about emotional distance versus cheating. She said it casually, like she hadn't just handed me a confession wrapped in gossip. I thanked her and hung up. Then I added a new section to my document, legal strategy. Sunday, I called my brother Marcus and told him I was having doubts about my marriage. He didn't sound surprised. Honestly, I've noticed Sarah's been different lately, he admitted. Last dinner, she kept checking her phone constantly, and she asked when you would be traveling again. Struck me as weird. It was more than weird. It was calculated. Sarah wasn't drifting. She was planning, laying groundwork, positioning herself, trying to construct a narrative where she was the sufferer of an emotionally unavailable husband who gave up first. That's when the switch flipped. Until then, I'd been reacting, albeit calmly, but still reacting. Now I was going to act. Sarah thought I was too naive to see it, too gentle to respond, that I'd spiral into guilt while she crafted her escape. But she was wrong. By midweek, I'd installed a discreet audio recorder in the hallway near our bedroom. Small, inconspicuous, not because I wanted to hear something traumatic, but because I needed proof. Not emotion, not suspicion, evidence. And I suspected this wasn't just about infidelity. This was about financial angles, legal timing, reputational control. Sarah wasn't acting like someone in a messy affair. She was acting like someone staging a performance, building a case, curating a character. I also went through bank statements thoroughly, and there it was. Small withdrawals every week, transferred to an account I didn't recognize. Not large enough to trigger alerts, but steady, consistent, hidden. It wasn't about the money, it was the mindset. She was creating distance, brick by brick. Financial independence, emotional detachment, narrative framing. This wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated sabotage. Thursday morning, I left for work early, but doubled back an hour later, quietly. I parked a block away, walked to the house, entered through the side door. From the stairwell, I heard her voice upstairs. She wasn't on the phone. She was talking to someone. A man. Deep voice. Too familiar. Too comfortable. I didn't go up. I didn't make a scene. I let the recorder work. Standing completely still, I heard the sentence that ended any doubt. He'll be the one to bring up divorce first. That's the goal. My stomach didn't turn. My pulse didn't race because I wasn't surprised. I was prepared. She wasn't cheating impulsively. She was engineering my collapse. This wasn't just betrayal. It was tactical, cold, strategic. I waited until they left, retrieved the recording, transferred it, backed it up 3 times. 1 in the cloud, 1 on hard drive, 1 off-site to Marcus. Redundancy wasn't paranoia. It was protection. That night when Sarah came home and kissed my cheek like nothing happened, I smiled. Not because I loved her, but because I finally saw her clearly. She wasn't just a cheating spouse. She was a schemer, a manipulator who thought she was too clever to get caught. But what she didn't know was that she hadn't just betrayed me. She'd activated me. Because when a man knows he's being played, he has 2 options: react emotionally or respond strategically. And I don't do emotion anymore. Tuesday afternoon changed everything. I was supposed to be in Denver for a client meeting until Thursday, but it got canceled last minute. I could have texted Sarah. I didn't. Something told me not to. As I turned onto our street, I saw it. A silver Lexus parked across from our house. Not a neighbor's car. Too expensive, too out of place. My pulse didn't spike. My hands didn't shake. I already knew. I just needed to confirm it. I parked in the garage like always, entered through the kitchen quietly. The house wasn't empty. I could hear voices, low, close, intimate, not conversation with a coworker, the kind you whisper when you think no one's home. I didn't charge upstairs like some betrayed husband in a bad movie. That's what she probably expected. Emotional chaos, confrontation, a scene she could twist into self-defense. No. I reached for my phone, switched to audio record, and moved slowly toward the stairs. Each step made their voices clearer, her tone breathless, playful, his voice low, confident, careless. They weren't just hooking up, they were planning, strategizing. My wife in our bedroom saying, "He'll be gone until Thursday, we have the whole place." Then the line that solidified everything. I've been laying the groundwork for weeks. He's already questioning himself. I just need him to be the one who brings up divorce first. That was it. The real script. The truth unfiltered. Not just cheating, but tactical sabotage. I stopped the recording, saved it, then opened the camera. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, enough to hear everything, enough to capture what I needed. I lifted the phone, hit record, and stepped closer. Quiet, controlled, detached. I saw what I expected. My wife, the woman I'd built a life with, tangled in sheets with a stranger. I didn't rage, I didn't burst in, I didn't say a word. I simply walked back downstairs, slipped out the side door, and drove 2 blocks away. I parked, opened the files, started uploading to secure cloud storage. I made 3 copies. 1 external drive, 1 encrypted folder, 1 to my backup email. Redundancy was no longer paranoia, it was security. I sat in the car for minutes, staring at nothing, processing nothing because I wasn't feeling. I was calculating, not why would she do this or what did I miss? No more questions, only plans. She thought she was ending our marriage in secret, but she just handed me the most valuable asset, evidence. Not just of the affair, but of the intent, the manipulation, the setup. An hour later, I returned home. I timed it perfectly, just after they left. Sarah was in the kitchen, her back to me. She turned, startled. "You're home early," she said, eyes flickering with panic. "Meeting got canceled," I replied, setting down my keys. "Figured I'd surprise you." "Oh," she said too quickly, "I was just napping." "Must have been good," I said, pouring water. "You look refreshed." Her hand twitched, but she smiled. "Yeah, needed it." We made small talk, 10 minutes of surface nonsense while she tried figuring out if I knew. She probed gently. "So you just got in?" "Just now," I lied. "Why?" "No reason. Just surprised." "Surprises can be interesting," I said, meeting her eyes. "Wouldn't you agree?" That night she acted like nothing changed. Made dinner, laughed at a show, slipped into bed without a word, but I could feel her watching in the dark, waiting for a clue, a crack in my armor. She got none. For 3 days, I acted normal. But underneath, I was preparing the next move. Backups, witnesses, timelines. I wasn't just building a case. I was building an ending, not the one she wrote. Friday morning didn't feel like Judgment Day. It felt like precision, like calm before a storm you summoned on purpose. She was in the bathroom getting ready, humming, probably texting him, probably feeling untouchable, but she didn't know the storm was already here. I'd made calls the night before. Her parents, my parents, Lisa, our friends. I didn't explain much, just asked them to be at our house by 8 a.m. for something important. Most agreed from concern, some from curiosity. "Honey, come downstairs," I called, voice steady. She appeared at the top of the stairs, still tying her robe, surprised by my tone. "What is it?" she asked, but her eyes darted past me. She froze. Outside in the morning light stood her boyfriend, confused. Next to him, her parents' car, across the street, mine. Our families, our friends, all watching. "What did you do?" she whispered, panic rising. "This," I said, motioning to the scene. "This is accountability." She tried retreating. I opened the door. "Everyone, thank you for coming. I think it's time you knew the truth about why this marriage is ending." She grabbed my arm, hissing, "Don't do this, please, not like this." "Like what? Publicly? Unlike how you planned my humiliation behind closed doors?" I pulled out my phone, tapped play. Her voice spilled out clearly. "I've been laying the groundwork for weeks. He just needs to bring up divorce first. Then I can play the sufferer." Her parents looked like statues. Her mother's face crumpled. Her father's eyes went cold. More audio, his voice. "When are you telling him?" Her answer, "Soon, he's doubting himself. I just need to keep pushing until he snaps." Silence followed, the kind that doesn't ask for permission. Her lover tried backpedaling. "Look, I didn't know she was married." I cut him off. "Your voice is on the recording too." "Want to hear the part where you call me too soft to fight back?" He blanched. Her face cracked wide open. Shame, panic, fury all at once. "This woman," I said to the crowd, "planned to destroy my reputation, my finances, my dignity, all while playing the faithful wife." I held up the USB drive. "This holds everything. Recordings, photos, financial trails, enough to make any court see the truth." Her mother stepped forward, tears brimming. "How could you?" she whispered. Her father didn't speak. The disgust on his face said everything. The boyfriend tried leaving. "I'm out," he muttered. "Of course you are," I said. "That's what cowards do." She turned to me desperate. "We can fix this. Please, just let me explain." "Explain what?" I asked. "That you thought I'd crumble? That you'd win?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time, her lies had nowhere to hide. Monday after the confrontation felt surgical, calculated, cold. I didn't need fireworks. I needed documentation. My attorney, David, ex-military, reviewed everything. "With this evidence, fault-based divorce will give you everything you're owed, including dignity." I handed him the drive. "Good. I want this handled like a hostile takeover." My accountant, Brian, confirmed she'd been moving money. Not large sums, just enough to look like overspending. But every transaction has a timestamp now. By Tuesday, papers were filed. Divorce papers, asset protection, restraining orders against financial tampering. My accounts were locked. She couldn't move a dime without triggering alarms. When she tried playing smart, she'd walk into traps I'd set weeks before. That night, she walked in like nothing happened. Dressed up, wearing perfume I once said reminded me of our honeymoon. The smell didn't stir longing. It stirred revulsion. "I made your favorite," she said, holding takeout. "Figured we could talk, reconnect." I sat watching her performance with fascination. "Reconnect? Interesting word choice. I've been connecting quite a few dots myself lately." She hesitated. "Look, I know things got out of hand, but we were both at fault." "No," I interrupted, voice low but firm. "You think you can spin this? You think gestures and crocodile tears will reset the game? That game ended. This is something else entirely." She blinked. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the paperwork's filed, assets frozen, evidence secure, and every lie now has a timestamp and legal consequence." Her mask cracked. "You wouldn't." "Already did." She collapsed in the chair, strength gone. "This doesn't have to be ugly," she whispered. "Too late," I said. "You made it ugly when you turned love into leverage." Friday, she finally broke. At breakfast, she said, "My attorney wants to meet." "Good," I replied. "So does mine. But this isn't a negotiation, it's a reckoning." Her hand trembled, reaching for her mug. "You're enjoying this," she muttered. I shook my head. "No, I'm simply done losing." Friday arrived quiet but heavy. She'd been quieter all week, moving like a ghost. That morning, she approached cautiously. "I want to talk, not as enemies, as two people who once loved each other." I raised an eyebrow. "That's an interesting description." She sighed. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But everything's spiraling. I've lost my job. My family barely talks to me. People whisper everywhere." I let her words hang. "I don't want this to end with us hating each other," she said. "Then maybe you shouldn't have started it with betrayal," I replied. Her face fell. For the first time, she didn't try manipulating the moment. She just looked tired. Please, I'm not asking you to forget. Just don't destroy me. I leaned in. I didn't destroy you. You handed me the match and poured the gasoline yourself. She looked away, ashamed. Then why haven't you released everything? The photos, recordings? You could have ruined me. I studied her. Because I'm not you. Because I still remember who I used to love, even if she never really existed. She started crying then, real tears, but they meant nothing. Tears don't undo blueprints for betrayal. Want to see the last piece of evidence? I asked. Her head snapped up. What do you mean? I walked to my office, retrieved the tablet, returned. I hit play. Hidden camera video, time-stamped, clear audio. Her voice laughing. He still has no idea. Honestly, it's kind of fun watching him try. His response. Don't feel bad. Some men are just built to be stepped on. She laughed. Yeah, and I'll still get half. He's too proud to fight dirty. I paused it. She looked like the air left her lungs. That was 2 days before the confrontation, I said. You'd already lost everything. You just didn't know it yet. She didn't deny it. She sat down and buried her face. For a moment it was quiet. Then she whispered, I ruined my life. I nodded. Yes, but just because you're broken doesn't mean I have to be. She looked up. Are you really going through with all of it? I already have, I said. You're just waiting for the final echo. Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. She flinched. I opened it to find Lisa, arms crossed, face unreadable. Can I come in? I nodded. Sarah appeared, pale. What are you doing here? You said you wouldn't get involved. That was before I found out what you did, Lisa said. You told me David was emotionally abusive. You said he ignored you, made you feel worthless. So I believed you. I even defended you. She looked at me. But then I saw the video, the recordings, and realized you lied to everyone. Sarah looked ready to collapse. You went through my stuff? No, Lisa replied. He didn't need to. People talk, friends, colleagues. You left a trail of destruction. She paused. Your boss called me. Didn't even know she had my number. She told me you blamed your affair on stress from family obligations. Tried to paint our parents as manipulative. Claimed we pressured you into marriage. She shook her head. You didn't just betray your husband. You tried to rewrite all of us into villains. Sarah was shaking. Lisa's voice dropped. I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to tell you what happens next. Don't ask to stay with me. Our parents changed the locks. Your old friend group saw the recordings. You don't have a side anymore. You have consequences. Figure yourself out alone. She left. For the first time in weeks, Sarah didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't reach for a mask. She just stared at the floor. That night she packed a small bag. Didn't say where she was going. I didn't ask. She paused at the door, looked at me, and whispered, I don't know who I am anymore. I didn't reply, not from cruelty, but because that answer wouldn't come from me. It would come from every lie, every betrayal, every bridge she burned. She closed the door. The house felt lighter. 3 weeks passed. The house became quiet, but not empty, just still. The couch where I'd sat paralyzed with pain became where I drank morning coffee in peace. My life was no longer a battlefield. It was recovery. Sarah never came back. A few ignored texts, a deleted voicemail. Her name stopped making my stomach drop. Her memory stopped feeling like a wound. Those 5 phrases stayed with me. Maybe we just settled for each other. I wonder what my life would have been like with different choices. I can't keep pretending to care. I wonder what being happy feels like. This isn't working anymore. Each one now felt less like a scar and more like a signpost guiding me away from what had betrayed me. I used to think forgiveness meant forgetting. Now I know it means release. She doesn't haunt me. She simply existed, then didn't. A knock at the door one evening startled me. My neighbor Emma, the one who never pried, never judged. She brought a casserole. Smells like healing, I joked. She smiled. Feels like it too. We talked, laughed, didn't compare battle scars, just existed. 2 people who knew what rebuilding meant. She didn't ask about Sarah. I didn't mention her. Some names don't deserve to echo. Maybe that's redemption, not dramatic courtroom victory, not the viral moment, just quiet knowing that you survived, that you saw someone's worst, didn't become it, and walked forward anyway. I was betrayed, yes. I lost a version of my life, yes. But I gained something rarer, I gained myself. For the first time in years, I looked in the mirror and saw someone I respected. The man who avoided conflict, who apologized to keep peace, was gone. What remained was someone who understood that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to play someone else's game, document the truth, and walk away with dignity intact. Sarah tried engineering my breakdown, but engineered my breakthrough. Standing in my quiet house, no longer carrying the weight of lies, I realized sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's healing, moving forward, building a life so much better than the one someone tried to destroy that their betrayal becomes irrelevant. I didn't just survive, I emerged stronger, clearer, and finally, genuinely free.